What's up, peeps? It's Payman Al-Awadi back with you for another vlog, and I want to tell you guys it is Ramadan right now, and if you don't know what Ramadan is, it is the 9th month in the Islamic lunar calendar. We call it the holy month of Ramadan because this is when the first verses of the Holy Quran were revealed to Prophet Muhammad. Now, Ramadan is all about faith, it's all about spirituality, it's all about prayer, but it's also all about food. That's what I'm about to do over here at the Arabian Tea House right here in Jumeirah, the archaeological site in Dubai. It's gonna be awesome. I'm sure that I've been coming to what was formerly Basta Art Cafe. So that was, how long ago was that? When it was at in Al-Bastakiya?
This whole story started back in 1997, and we called it Basta as a short for Bastakiya, but then I realized it's better to have the name to match what we're doing, and therefore I changed it to Arabian Tea House. It has a lot of meaning because, as you know very well, traditionally people meet in tea houses in Dubai or in the Gulf in general to enjoy themselves. So that was the reason why we renamed it to Arabian Tea House.
Amazing. I remember that because I believe it was 2013 or 2012, and I don't think you had this full-blown Emirati menu at that time.
Yes, we did, but what we had more was the tea. There was so much focus on the tea that it overwhelmed the traditional Emirati food. And I always noticed that one thing we didn't have in Dubai, although Dubai is super multicultural place, our own traditional food was never in the menu. So that prompted me to start the traditional Emirati food.
How did this particular branch come about? Because the archaeological site was kind of closed off to the public until the recent past.
So I was not just fortunate, I was lucky that I was invited to see if I could build something here and take the risk. Of course, because there is no other industries, there is no other outlets around here, residential. So I had my vision that, you know what, I am actually linking our food culture with our history. And this is why our Al-Fahidi branch is related to the history of the Pearl era. This is about the caravan area. This whole little village that you could see, all the caravans that were coming from Iraq and from Oman and converge here, and they continue.
So remember, this is their first meal of the day, so you start off light. You usually have a date like the Prophet, peace be upon him, did. I'm gonna get one of those.
Throughout the year, the harda is there, and we introduce it to all the guests, all the visitors to Dubai, to experience it, because this is something very unique and very healthy.
Mashed smoked sesame, different than tahina, because tahina is not smoked, so different thing. That's why you get this awesome dark brown color, which is just beautiful. All right, next on the menu, the samosa, and of course we call it sambusa. It's not really sambusa. I don't know where the B came from. It's actually samosa, which actually originates from India, but we call it sambusa. And it looks like this, basically this pastry wrapped, and inside this would normally be either minced beef or minced chicken or cheese or vegetables. Which one?
This is vegetable, so
Vegetables.
I will let you surprise what's inside.
Gonna get a little bit of this sauce right there, and just you have to listen to this. That's very important. There's that crunch, and that crunch is super important. Oh yeah, got potatoes in there. It actually reminds me of those North Indian style large potato samosas. It's got that kind of feel to it. So here's the thing, guys, a lot of people associate Ramadan with food, and that's probably because there's so many less meals in the day that you also end up spending more time with a lot more people. And because there's less meals in the day, people want to eat a lot more. The tables are more lavish like this. Maybe lavish is a little bit overstating it, but there's a lot more that's cooked and put on the table during Ramadan, just because there's a lot more people that eat together during Ramadan. So today I'm very fortunate to be eating with Mr. Ali and his whole family. Thank you very much for having me.
This is the spirit of Ramadan, that you have table full of different varieties of food, and you also different kind of people around the table, the whole family, friends. So I'm glad you're joining us for this special iftar. It's great. So my mom played a major role in this. Nothing that we serve in this restaurant wasn't endorsed or checked by my mother. In fact, every once in a while, I take a dish for her approval. God bless her soul. I mean, she is fantastic with the food. So that's the reason why when you eat in Arabian tea house, you're almost eating in somebody's house. I personally invite more people to this place than to my own house. I feel this is an extension of my living room or my dining room.
All right, guys, I got an inside tip. When you come over to the Arabian tea house, ask for the shrimp risotto Emirati style.
Rais is the cousin of Rais. As I said to you earlier, we didn't have the rice, so this is what the main staple diet. Rais was the king of the table.
Fantastic. Again, something completely new. I never knew this. I've never had jarish before. And especially not jarish with Arabians. That's amazing. I would love to try that. So that actually is broken wheat. And look at that. It is moist, not super watery, not super dry. Got a lot of spices. Look at that. I'm gonna guess the spices after I take the first bite, but I'm looking at the rubian, the shrimp up on top, and it's got like a risotto feel to it, but it's the risotto of the UAE. Wow, that's fantastic.
The haris is another dish. It's the queen of the table in Ramadan, must have. So basically meat with wheat. And this is the staple diet of the entire Gulf area, not just in the UAE. Why? Because this is our first diet before the rice came to us. After the Second War, ended up receiving rice from India.
Wow, that is amazing. So this actually has a lot more history over here. And I've seen the cooking of this. Obviously, my mom makes this at home. But you slow cook beef. You let it really like just, you know, cook on fire. Yeah, absolutely. So it's that meat that you let to slow cook and you let to pull apart, and then wheat, you just drop it into that water, and it's got a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, maybe one cinnamon stick at the end over there as well. This is brilliant. And then you've got that awesome yellow oil on top of that. That's like fantastic. That is very creamy in texture. You can certainly tell the meat is like all pulled apart. It's all in like strings, savory. This is like a porridge, but super savory. Although a lot of people do add cinnamon and sugar on top of this. You heard it here first. This is fantastic.
The main star of the restaurant, of course, is majboos, which we also, every family has its own bit of recipe. But I think we have done our recipe to match everybody's taste.
So look at this amazing, huge bone over there. Look at that. That's the sign of good meat, peeps. Look at the color. Textures is perfect, and you need a good chunk of that with the rice. And that rice, that color, is a result of 6 or 7 different spices. So that's when you can tell a great majboos. First of all, the aromatics. So we got a lot of things on the table, but I can certainly smell all the spices that are in the majboos, which is fantastic. Basmati rice, of course, the rice that we use over here. Here's the thing, right? You look at the rice, and sometimes some of it is kind of stuck to each other, which is absolutely fine. There's a lot of spices in there. It's cooked in all the juices of the meat and the oil and everything like that, but it is just right. Not dry, not super wet, just right. Wow.
This is what we call Bahari majboos. It means it doesn't have tomatoes. Usually majboos is done with fish, so fishermen, they don't use too many fancy ingredients. So it's rice with fish, a bit of spices, and that's it, dry lemon.
I'm guilty. That's how I do it. So I chop up tomatoes, I put it in there.
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of canned tomatoes. I put some tomato paste in there. I do all of that. Put a little bit of saffron in there as well. But wow, this is fantastic. But look at that. That is how the cuisine is over here. So if you were living by the water and you were dependent on the sea and you cook it differently, if you were in the desert and you were dependent on the desert and you cook it differently, that is the cuisine here in the UAE. As since you've traveled a lot and you were in aviation, can you imagine a scenario where you open an Arabian tea house, not in the UAE to begin with, but in another country, and it's becoming popular and then coming back?
Being there on my own and not having support from someone back here, it made it difficult. But now that I'm getting a lot of support because of what we have created, the buzz among tourists, the DTCM, very much focused with us. So all these agencies in the country have realized the value of food culture that we have. It's very rich, very healthy. And when I see people eating and enjoying themselves, especially the foreigners, it just gives me a pleasure. I just sit here and enjoy the pleasure of their faces, that they're really indulging in our food.
All right, peeps, you guys saw the cooking of this awesome grilled meat. Once again, this is not Emirati, but nobody can claim that they're the only country or the only place in the world that grilled meat, right? But the spices you use, I'm assuming, has some level of Emirati in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We make sure that the spice we have, there's no garlic, there's no onions, just Emirati spices. So that would set us different than any other barbecues that you come across.
So I'm seeing coriander seeds on top of that, right? All right, which one do you recommend we start with?
Well, I guess all of them, but you need the bread to, just give me a piece of bread, please. Shall I use the trick of restaurants?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. You want to do this one?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So you just, if you just hold it,
and just push it down right there. All right. So my father taught me another trick on this type of kebab.
Okay.
He said, first of all, push up here a little bit, and then push down over there.
Right.
I don't know if that helps or not. But
you did it perfect.
But that's thanks, Dad, for that tip. I actually want to have this plain, without any bread, without anything. I want to taste it like all straight up. So I'm gonna take this piece over here. I see a little bit of fat on it, which I really like as well. Ooh! That was actually a good piece of fat, just melted in my mouth. And that is a great sign of a barbecue. That is so tender. So I'm gonna try the minced meat as well. Take a piece of that also, peeps. What I love is the smokiness. It is so nice.
This is why we don't add garlic or onion. I want the guest, the person who's eating it, feel the taste, real meat. Whatever he's eating is the natural taste. When you add other overwhelming spices like garlic, you lose the taste of the meat and the chicken.
It just masks things. You want this to be the real deal. That's beautiful.
Hey, can you say
Welcome.
welcome to the Arabian Tea House?
Arabian tea house.
And that brings us to the end of our amazing Ramadan meal right here at the Arabian Tea House with Mr. and Mrs. Rais. They were tremendous hosts. This food is just unreal. And every second that we spent over here, we learned something new about the UAE. And that kind of experience you won't get anywhere else. I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you enjoyed the food. I hope I contributed a little bit to the experience of the Emirati cuisine.